Yes, Salafiyya divide. Salafiyya divide between haqq wal batil.
If you're going to be on a path, know that Yahya lost his head, know that Zakaria lost his life, know that Ibrahim was thrown into the fire.
Yes, Salafiyya divide, ya Ikhwan, between truth and falsehood.
Another habit of the Khawaarij is to take the verses of the Quran, and you hear this quite often on national radio, and even probably on local radio stations. In the UK, isn't it the case that if you read the Quran, that you'll find verses of the Quran where Allah speaks about, for example, violence, and jihad, and killing? And the answer is yes. If you go to the Quran, you will find verses in the Quran where Allah talks about killing and fighting. So therefore, isn't it the case that these people have used these verses, therefore, in their sick mentality to implement this in the world today? So therefore, the problem is the source book, the Quran itself, because that's what they're utilizing. Aren't there verses in the Quran that talk about killing? Aren't there verses in the Quran talking about killing the unbelievers? Then the answer is yes, there are verses in the Quran that mention this. But likewise, when we look at those verses, we look at those verses in the context of what? That they are verses of the Quran that are implemented by the rulers. Because the Quran itself has within it mention of regulations and rules that are for the Muslim ruler to implement. Just like you have laws in the statute in Britain or in Europe, that you know that if I was to read them now and I say to myself, right, it says here in the law in one of the states in the United States that whoever kills someone, that for them is the electric chair and they have to be executed. So what I do is I take the law and I say to myself, right, I know for sure that this individual killed someone. So what I'll do, I'll set up an electric chair in my house, I'll kidnap him from the street, tie him to the electric chair in my house and electrocute him in my house, and that's my excuse for killing them. So what will I say now? The problem is the law that is established in such and such a state in America, or is the problem the implementation of that law? Is it for everyone now to take the rules of the Quran and the regulations of the Quran and that which the Quran embodies, that is directed towards government and the Muslim rulers, and take that and say, right, I'm going to implement this myself? The law of the land says, if I catch anyone in the United Kingdom carrying a firearm, what is it, minimum 5 years? I can't remember. Is it minimum 5 years? Anyone know? 5 years, huh? Minimum 5 years, just in possession of a firearm. So now, I know that the person next door to me has a firearm. So instead of going to the authorities, I take him, kidnap him, bring him into my house, throw him in my cellar for 5 years. And I say to him, there you go. There's your 5-year sentence. Now you can go, you're free to go. So likewise these Kharijites, renegades, take the verses from the Quran that are to be implemented by the government and by the rulership and by the ruler and the Muslim army in a warfare situation. When an army meets an army, they've taken these verses and said, no, we are the army. We are the government. We have a leader. Who's your leader? Some fool sitting in London seeking political asylum because he's wanted in Egypt or Saudi Arabia.